Hello everyone,
and welcome to
Dad and Me Love History.
Dad and me love a whole lot of history. We could be the greatest team that the world has ever seen. Dad and me love a whole lot of history.
Shout out to Cooper, one of our biggest fans.
And a special hello to Annie Foley, who's co-presenting with us today.
Hello.
So, guys, what is it about history that makes it fun and interesting?
Well, to me, the thing about history is learning new things every day. It shows how much humans have evolved over time.
I like it because we've evolved very differently, like from technology. There was lots of fightings and we just evolved better.
Come up with some better ideas, although there's still some fighting, maybe not so much.
But not so much.
And some useful, as we know through this series, the human race has managed to invent great things, from ice cream to computers to Lego and to Disney, that we've all covered in previous episodes, so check them out if you've not heard them. I agree with you guys completely, but another thing I find interesting about history is when you get a character, a real person in history who just sounds like they must be made up because they're so cool or they're so interesting or they're so wacky. And we are going to look at one interesting character today, a one-eyed, one-armed soldier called Adrian Carton de Wyatt. We'll just call him Adrian.
Adrian fought both wars, as well as other battles, and he was either the stupidest or the bravest soldier that ever lived.
That's right, both world wars and other battles, he did his fighting for the British Army, but Adrian wasn't exactly from Britain. I wonder if he joined the British Army just because Britain was making the biggest empire for itself and invading all sorts of places 120 years ago, obviously not asking the poor people there if they wanted to be invaded. And that was all when Adrian was starting out in the world. But Annie, haven't you got some research there that could tell us more about where Adrian was from?
Yes, I do. Adrian was born into a rich family in Belgium in 1880. Adrian's dad was Belgian. We don't like to gossip, but some historians say that his dad was really the king of Belgium. Anyway, Adrian's stepmom was English, but Adrian's mum was Irish, and she died when he was a young child. His parents sent him to boarding school in England when he was 11.
Yeah, that's amazing that his dad could be the king of Belgium. We're certainly confident that it's a Belgian guy. Would you like to be sent to boarding school, James? You're age 11, so maybe now's the time that we send you off to England.
I'm fine.
You sure?
Mm-hmm.
Better behave yourself, then.
From when he was a young man, Adrian always wanted action, and lots of it. In 1899, at age 19, Adrian quit Oxford University and went to South Africa to fight in the Second Boer War. Even though you had to be 20 to fight in the British Army at the time. That didn't stop him though, so he pretended he was 25 and he changed his name, so that his parents could not be found, and asked how old Adrian was. So, by lying about his age and his name, he joined the British Army.
Yeah, and while fighting in South Africa, he got shot. Bullets wounded his stomach and his leg. During all the wars he fought, he received another 10 deadly wounds.
Yep, any one of those 10 or 11 wounds would have killed an ordinary person.
When World War I began in 1914, Adrian was on his way to fight another war in Africa. The British Empire were forever fighting in Africa. Although he wanted to fight in the big war in Europe, he had promised to fight with the Somaliland Camel Corps against Muslim forces.
During one attack by the Camel Corps, Adrian was shot 3 times, once in the arm and twice in the face.
A friend who fought alongside Adrian in the battle said that when the bullets hit Adrian, including one in the eye, he didn't stop moving forwards to attack, but he started swearing a lot.
Oh dear.
Adrian lost a chunk of his ear, and he lost his left eye. He still wanted to fight again, so he wore a fake eye made out of glass.
Yeah, and he wore this glass eye to an interview that he had to have with army bosses to decide whether he could fight again, whether he'd be allowed to fight again in the army. The glass eye was really uncomfortable, but he wanted to convince the interviewers that he was okay, so he ignored the pain. And after they said yes, he could fight, he left, got in a horse-drawn taxi carriage to go home, and as the taxi rode along, Adrian threw his eye out of the window. He wasn't going to use it anymore.
So in 1915, the second year of World War I, he was sent to fight.
Yeah, he was sent to fight in the trenches of what's called the Western Front, and his place that he was sent to at first was a town called Ypres in Belgium. On the first night there, as his regiment was moving in to take over positions from other British troops to give them a break, the Germans launched an artillery attack.
Adrian got hit, or his watch did. It was on his left wrist, and the watch was blown to pieces that splintered into his wrist and hand.
2 of his fingers were dangling off and causing immense pain. When a doctor refused to remove or amputate those 2 dangly fingers, do you know what Adrian did? Any guesses?
No. Nah.
He tore off his own 2 fingers himself.
Later that year, a surgeon removed his whole hand, but he still managed to persuade the army again that he was fit to fight. So in 1916, he went back to fight in World War I at the Battle of the Somme.
And that was a massive battle. One day during that battle, after the top 3 commanders had been killed or injured in action, Adrian then took control and led his troops through battle near the River Somme. Yeah, he probably looked a bit mad, but also inspiring, with an eye patch over one eye, his empty sleeve dangling with no arm in it, of course. His men admired his bravery, and he took away some of their own fears about going into battle when they saw him leading the way. At the Battle of the Somme, he led them through intense firepower as he ran towards and then through the German defensive line. Because he only had one hand, he pulled grenade pins out with his teeth, then threw the grenades with his one good hand.
After the battle, he was given an important bravery medal called the Victorian Cross, or VC. The reason he was given the VC was for bravery, coolness, and determination.
By the end of World War I, Adrian had copped many more injuries. He was shot in the leg, skull, hip, ankle, and ear. But he always returned to fighting. Maybe he was at least a little bit crazy, because later he admitted that, frankly, I had enjoyed the war.
Yeah, whoa. Not sure I would have enjoyed that too much.
We love history. We love history, baby. We love history.
After World War I and before World War II, Adrian lived in Poland, working for the British and helping Poland when it was fighting wars against Germany, the Soviet Union, Russia, and against Czechoslovakia, all at the same time.
At one point in Poland, he survived ambush by Russian troops, and he survived 2 plane crashes.
And he became an advisor to the Polish king and settled down to live peacefully in Poland from 1921. Except peace didn't last long. In 1939, Hitler's Germany invaded Poland, and they had hit lists of important families, and they were gonna, do pretty nasty things to those families. And we know someone whose uncle was a top Polish general. He worked in intelligence, so we think he was a spy. So he sent out his entire family from Poland as the German army came invading in 1939. And one of the people he sent out to travel across Europe and try and get to safety was...
my granny.
Yeah.
Well, my great-grandma.
That's right, your great-grandma, my Polish granny. And so She got on the last boat from Bordeaux in France that was going to England. And do you know what happened as that boat was pulling out to sea?
Guns were shot.
Yeah, go on.
Guns were shot, and my great granny said it was like dolphins.
Dolphins in the water splashing away, when really it was shells from big German guns landing next to the ship and spraying water up. But she made it. She made it to the UK. And that story of my granny and James's great-grandmother's escape across Europe with the Nazis chasing her, that forms the start of my first novel, a thriller love story called A Chance Kill.
Anyway, that's enough blatant self-promotion from you. When Germany invaded Poland, Adrian rejoined the British Army and was soon promoted to Major General. He led his troops into battle in Norway and Yugoslavia. But then in 1941, when he was flying over the sea near Italy, his plane got shot down. He landed in the sea and swam to shore, where he was captured by Italians who were on the side of the Nazi Germany.
Yeah, and despite being in his 60s by now, he made lots of attempts to escape from prisoner of war camp in Italy. He couldn't speak Italian, and with only one arm and one eye, just imagine him wandering around Italy after he escapes the camp. He's pretty easy to spot for his enemies to grab him. But on one escape attempt, he got out of the prisoner of war camp and remained on the run for 8 days before he was recaptured. We think he just enjoyed causing a bit of trouble for the enemy, making them send loads and loads of men to try and find him. Later, when Italy swapped sides in 1943, Adrian was released. Prime Minister of Britain Winston Churchill then sent Adrian to help the Chinese leader Chiang Kai-shek, who was fighting against Imperial Japan and later against Chinese communists, because after World War II, China went to war against itself. Anyway, Adrian kept that job for a couple of years after World War II, and then in 1947 he retired. He eventually went to live in Ireland, where he did lots of fishing, and he died at home peacefully in 1963 at the age of 83.
When did he retire? Age?
So he retired in 1947, 16 years earlier, so 67.
That's old.
Old? 67? I don't know, it's quite a normal age to retire these days, probably
Yeah,
back
but
then.
for an army.
Yeah, no, that's true, to still be doing fighting, you're right. Yeah.
I'm like, you have to be really fit.
Yeah, well,
And especially having lost all the body parts.
you would think that would make life difficult, and that's the inspiring bit of Adrian's story.
During his life, Adrian fought 3 major wars spread over 6 decades.
Yeah, when he was young and old, like you say, James.
And he did that with only one arm and one eye.
So he may have been a bit crazy, and in his early years especially, he was part of a British army that went around causing trouble and taking people's lands, particularly in Africa. But he was also inspiring to other soldiers, in the past and in the present today, who have suffered injury and have battled to make a comeback to be as strong as they can be. Military historian Lieutenant Colonel James Cook of the Royal Artillery says that Adrian
Did have a habit of getting injured, but he inspired his men with the simple words, "Follow me." These words remain the mark of a truly courageous leader. Be it on the Western Front 100 years ago or today in the military operations around the world.
One modern-day soldier has said, soldiers like Cotton Divert, or Adrian, are a real example for troops serving today. It's quite sad having sacrificed so much for a story that isn't particularly well known. I think as well as remembering the war dead, it is vital we remember what injured soldiers like him went through in countless conflicts.
So that's from modern day soldiers, so they're very much aware that, he might have been a bit crazy, maybe he liked war too much, but if you just look at how he coped with injury and his positive attitude, there's things to be learned there. So that's almost it. But here are some questions to see if you were listening.
Number 1. What was the name of the first war that Adrian fought in?
Number 2. Ypres was on the Western Front in World War One, but which country is Ypres in?
Number 3. When was the Battle of the Somme?
Number 4. What was the name of the medal Adrian got for bravery during the Battle of Somme?
Number 5. Which country did my granny escape from in 1939?
Number 6. Which of Adrian's injuries do you think would be the hardest to live with?
Well, that's it from Dad and me.
And me.
Yeah, thanks for guest starring, Annie.
Please review us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
And write in your review that you want more of me.
Yeah, and you can tell us what you think on
Facebook.
Instagram.
And Twitter.
Bye for now from
Dad and me.
And me.
Dad and me love a whole lot of history. We could be the greatest team that the world has ever seen. Dad and me love a whole lot of history.
Yep. Loud.
Hello.
Ooh, okay. Hi. 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 Hi.
That's pretty useless. You two might be able to get closer than I can.
Okay.
Have a.
So, this is okay. Do I just? Okay, so I have to be around this loud.
Camel sound effect. So, that's almost it from Dad and me.
And me.
Sorry, let's do that again. You're quite right. So that's almost it from
Dad and me.
And me. Ooh, that was cool.
Cool. Thanks, guys. That was really nicely done. Very professional. Brilliant.